Hello, it's Jeannie Schmidt, and I want to welcome everybody to Bridge the Gap. That's what we're going to be talking about today. I'm here with a message for any woman who has made mistakes and is ready to get into a deeper relationship with God and work through those, to put the past behind you, and to know that you don't have to settle for less than everything that God has planned for you. So without further ado, let's get started. The first point that I want to make is that it's not too late. All of us have made mistakes. There's not a one of us here who has not been in challenges where we've made some decisions that weren't the right decisions. Maybe we've said some things that we shouldn't say. Maybe we've done some things that we shouldn't do. And we all make those mistakes. And sometimes people don't forgive themselves. We don't work through that. And it's super important that we learn how to move past those mistakes and move beyond that so that God can continue to work in your life and just continue to help you be the person that you're meant to be. So one of the key things is to forgive yourself. Far too often, there are women and men for that matter, but people who have dealt with situations and they have forgiven, maybe they've asked God for forgiveness, but they haven't forgiven themselves. And what happens is that you need to know that if God has forgiven you, if you've gone to Him and you've confessed to Him what's happened, and you've talked about with Him about forgiveness, and that would you just put that in the past for me. He's put it in the past. It's already done. You can't change that. And He doesn't remember your past. I want you to think about Moses. It's a very common story. We all know that Moses was a baby and he ended up living in the palace of Pharaoh. And he was the prince. He was actually destined to be the next Pharaoh of Egypt. And then one day he had known, his mom and his adopted mom had told him that he was actually an Israelite or Hebrew by birth. And one day he saw one of the slaves being beaten mercilessly. And so he killed the Egyptian taskmaster. And as a result, he had a death threat on him. Moses got a death threat on his life from Pharaoh, even though he was supposed to be the favored one and the great one who was going to do everything. And you need to remember that even in that mistake, in that situation, God can work through those things. And so Moses had to leave. The man who was destined for greatness in Egypt was now going across the desert, and he was settling into a place that was a barren wilderness. And about 40 years later, you probably know this story where God approached him or came to him in a burning bush or as a burning bush, and told Moses that he needed to go ahead and go back and rescue the Israelites. And Moses was full of God butts, and that's the next thing I want to talk about are our God butts. What is a God butt? I'm going to describe that by using some of the God butts that Moses actually said. It's out of the Bible and you can go take a look at it, but one of the things he said is, God but I don't speak well. He was not a man who was eloquent. He wasn't well versed. He was smart, but he didn't speak well, and he was nervous about that. Another one he said was, God, but what if they don't believe me? What if the Israelites don't believe that they're supposed to be rescued, that I'm the one who's going to rescue them? What if God, but is what if Pharaoh won't let the people go? And he had many of these. There are several of them. But I've heard some recently where I'm wondering whether people are having God buts. God, but who am I to go open a facility for veterans? Or, God, but what if no one shows up for that Bible study that I prepared so hard for? That's a hard one. If people show up or God's promised you something like the veterans thing, are you saying, God, but is that really going to happen? God, but is that really right? So that's the next point, is to don't try to do it on your own. Usually the reason of God buts is fear. We are afraid of something that's going to happen because maybe you don't see the way yourself. God sees you. He sees you as new. He sees you as ready to take on everything that He has prepared for you. Hi, Donna. Glad to see you. Hope to see you again soon. So maybe you don't see yourself the way God sees you. Maybe you see yourself as inadequate. You need to know that God equips you. It doesn't matter what He's asked you to do, how big or how small or how in between, He will equip you. The next point is you see yourself powerless. Maybe you don't understand that you have, as a child of God, you have the power within you to fulfill everything that He's called you to. And so you just need to know that He will be the one who empowers you. Don't try and do it on your own. We can't do it. He's got it all figured out. And then the last one there is that you may see yourself as inferior, not able, not like everybody else. Maybe you compare yourself. God doesn't want us to compare ourselves to each other. We are all equipped and empowered and created differently, and we all have a purpose. And that purpose may be similar to others, and it may be just way out there. But God is the great encourager, and He is the one who will fulfill all of those things as long as you release what you need to release so that you can do what He's called you to. So the next question is how do we move forward from here? How do you move forward from here? Remember, we've all made mistakes. Don't let them hold you back from the plans God has for you. He has plans for hope and a future, promises. They may not always be easy. There may be some times when you feel stuck in a whirlpool, or like the waves of the crashing sea are washing over you and you can't figure out how you're going to make it through all of those things. But you need to remember that it's all about God, and that He doesn't remember your mistakes. He doesn't remember those things. So don't allow those to take you under. The next one is to remember those God buts and recognize them. When you're saying, God, but what if I can't finish my book by March 14th, which is what I want to do? God, but what if I don't have all the skills I need? What if I don't have the money I need? What if? God buts aren't meant to be, because it's not a question. If God's equipped you and He's empowered you, then He's going to have you take care of it. But you need to work on them one by one. Next is you're God's child. This is my favorite one. He will provide all you need, and you never have to settle for less than His plans for you. Never settle for anything less than what He has for your life. Sometimes it can be scary, sometimes it's big jumps, but you know what? He will be there to carry you through. He will see you through all of the things that need to happen to achieve your destiny as God has prepared you to. I want to read Romans 8:28 to you, and it's out of the Passion Translation. It says, "So we are convinced that every detail of our lives is continually woven together to fit into God's perfect plan of bringing good into our lives. For we are His lovers." He tells us that He loves us, and we need to love Him back. We are His lovers who have been called to fulfill His design purpose. That's you. If you're hearing this, that's you. You are designed to fulfill His purpose, and there's no question about it. So I want you to get that inside of you and believe it. So the bottom line here is that you can have a deeper relationship with God. Sometimes it's scary because you're confessing things you don't want to confess. Sometimes it's because you're scared of what He's going to ask you to do. But don't settle for less than what God's planned for you. If you're serious about maybe wanting to take this a little bit deeper, I'd love for you to take a couple of minutes and go to get a free copy of my ebook, Exploring Divine Drift. It's at www.jeannieschmidt.com/e#book. So it's jeannieschmidt.com/ebook. That's the right way. It will help you discover a new way to stay connected to God. So I am so glad you've been on with me. I hope it's been a blessing to you. I care about you and hope all is well. And I hope you are blessed. See you soon. Take care.